everyone. Welcome to The Obvious. My name is Sonny Macon. I'm the CEO of ABC Florida East Coast.
So my name is Peter Daiga, and I'm the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors, Florida East Coast chapter.
The Obvious podcast is a production of ABC Florida East Coast, unless otherwise stated. All content reflects the opinions of our guests and the hosts, which is us.
And if you like The Obvious podcast, and who wouldn't? Obviously you do. You're watching, listening. You can subscribe on all major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Spotify, among others, or watch the audiovisual version on YouTube. You can also follow The Obvious Podcast on Instagram, X, and Truth Social. And always reach out to us via email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Links to all our social media feeds are in this episode's show notes, and if you want to help others find the podcast, and we hope you do, please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Take it away, Sonny.
Take it away. We're very grateful for the success that the podcast is having. Your notes and emails and Instagram messages, and
it's a very odd combination of stuff, right? We've talked about this.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of association and ABC, but current affairs mixed in there.
Politics and conversations about violence and,
so
all sorts of interesting stuff. But we're glad you're here with us. You know, we want to take up 20 minutes of your time, but we want to give you something that's entertaining and enlightening and hopefully gives you a new insight into looking at the world and looking at your business and how we can help you with that.
So what are we going to talk about this week?
So today I wanted to talk to you and our audience about events. We had an employee join us last year who made the comment to me that he looked at our events calendar and his first thought was, I hope I'm not expected to go to every single event because there's about 80 a year.
Yeah, and that's on the low side because we're probably not counting, all of our educational and
right. Yeah. That's
a lot of national conventions we're not counting and state conventions. So
we could easily be hitting 100
probably,
for sure.
Probably. So,
and last time I checked, there's only 52 weeks in a year. So there's a lot happening at ABC in terms of events and participation.
That's
and
right.
The reason you and I are talking about events and not our events team is because they are busy at
events and planning them, which takes a tremendous amount of work.
Yep.
So, and I know everybody, I think listening, hopefully knows both Amy and Megan, top notch. I think
it's
in
a great
their
team.
field. So,
absolutely.
And by the way, from an ABC membership perspective, you couldn't have two people that are more conscientious about value, whether you're an attendee or a sponsor, but for the organization as well, very conscientious about the cost of events, even though that's a real challenge in this day and age.
Yeah.
But in any event, they're top notch.
Bidenomics really had an impact on our cost of events, but we got a top-notch team that really has fought hard to.
So, in the association world, it's talked about pretty generally about this is the reason when we talk about events, we're kind of talking about business development and networking, right? That's we hope to organize and sponsor and host the most productive events possible when it comes to you meeting people and networking and developing your business. So it's like upwards of 70-80% of most people in surveys, say that's the reason they join an organization.
An association.
Yeah. So when we've had a previous podcast where our membership, vice president of membership development, talked about the things he does, to help people build relationships outside of just leaving people at their own whatever's at an event. So right. So anyway, that's the reason most people say they join. I wanted to tell a little story, Sonny, about when I became chapter president, which would be 13 years ago now. I feel like the chapter had a very...
I am going to interrupt you and say welcome to your 26th year at ABC.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So appreciate it.
Excellent.
So flown by. So, I think the chapter has had for some time a very strong reputation when it came to government affairs, especially. In fact, there are other organizations in our region that you can say we have to compete against. When I say compete, members have to make a decision about where they spend their membership dollars, and if they can join all of them, great. But we've long said if you can only join one, we hope it's ABC, and we have a reason why we hope it's ABC. And I think part of it is because for a long time we had that reputation of the one that would get involved in the political and government affairs.
I'm just going to point out that a lot of that has to do with you because you were the government affairs director 26 years ago when you started.
Well, thank you. And the leadership, the long-standing commitment that they had in the budget process and to, invest in these things. So
absolutely.
and getting our membership engaged, because it takes that. It can't all be led by staff, or lobbyists. So I think we've had that reputation for a long time. We didn't have the knowledge out there or the reputation as much, but we were also very much leaders in the workforce development part of the needs of this industry as well. Even going back to when I first came in, we've certainly strengthened that, I think. But in any event,
I'm just going to take that opportunity to remind our audience that ABC is the largest provider of apprenticeship education in the state of Florida.
And that's important, right? Because when if you have any kind of a conversation now or going back my 26 years and my 26th year now, at any point, if you ask somebody in this industry what one of the biggest problems we face is, it had always been, and unfortunately a lot of people say it probably will always be, but it has been for a long time, workforce development issues, So that's important to be a leader, I think, when you're an organization.
Absolutely.
But the one thing that I think people, whether rightly or not, 13 years ago when I first became president, thought we were not necessarily a leader in was probably our events. I think some people felt different organizations maybe had more productive events, more
better events,
who knows, more engaging events. So, I really took it upon myself when I became chapter president to be, I'm not acquiescing, I'm not giving up on this one thing.
Yeah.
We're going to be the best at that too. And the sole credit goes to the great events people that we've had in this position over the years. With that, and I think, and that's the point of this podcast, they've taken us there. And you have a lot of stories, and maybe you can share some of them. We have some data that we want to share today as well. But I think where we stand today, I think our events are pretty much regarded as the top notch, if not the best.
Absolutely. And I remember, I think it was my first event. I had been at ABC maybe a week. I went to, it was an event in West Palm Beach at Roxy's Pub, and I walked in, and I see the bar is packed. And I walked in, I say hi to our staff, kind of start making my way through. And the portion of the bar that I was in was full. And so I was like, let me go to the other side. Maybe I'll have a little bit more oxygen and more breathing room. And I started to go around it, and it's packed. And I realized from name tags that we had the whole bar. And if you've been to Roxy's in West Palm, it's a big bar.
Right.
It's it's on a random Tuesday at 4 o'clock or 5:30, and it's packed with people. And I remember because Clematis had construction happening at the same time, so parking was inconvenient. It's the summertime, it's hot out, but people were there. And I remember sharing that story with a new employee as well, and he said to me he couldn't believe how well our events did. And he had asked our events team kind of what they were doing to marketing it, and they were like, we put it on LinkedIn and send an email out. Like, that's it, right? But like the reputation is so incredible. So I got super curious, and I asked our events team, like, how many people attended an ABC event in 2024, sorry. Mm-hmm. Do you have a guess?
I wouldn't have had a guess. I have the number right in front of me. Because we've been tracking this for, I think, 2023.
Right.
We got a number for 2024 because we started doing a year in review.
Yeah.
Which will be out very shortly. So I hope you all look for that.
It's the Year in Success, Peter.
Year in Success. We retitled it. Thank you. Which I love. But this is an incredible number. Mm-hmm. And it's not just this number, but it's also, like you were talking about, the second Tuesday. And we have a variety of events, right? Which is by design. Our producer's like, what's the number? What's the number? We were like trying to drag it out. So it's a huge number. Do you want to... 6,478 individuals attended an ABC Florida East Coast chapter event
in 1 year
last year.
That's amazing.
The other amazing thing is the second Tuesday, which is one of our recurring standard events. That on average, over the course of the whole year, on average, had 147 attendees.
Wow.
So what's our, when you talk about business development and networking, a couple things. You're going to want to go to an event that has good, solid attendance. Mm-hmm. How many times I've heard people say, which I always tell them, that is really good news. because I think in early years I would hear, it's the same old people. You never want to hear at a networking event, it's the same old people.
Yeah.
You know, the comment I hear more often than not now is, I don't recognize anybody. Here. Somebody old, old. So a senior, experienced member, comes. And I tell them, you wait long enough, somebody will show up that you'll recognize, but that's a good thing. You want to be the organization where you're meeting new people and fresh faces. So I think there's so much to talk about in terms of the success of our events, but these are two of the big numbers that stand out off the page to me.
Yeah. I am just going to say that number only represents Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach.
That's right.
Right? So if you look at everything we do in Brevard.
Because we have a special challenge, because like a lot of chapters do, but our chapter region is very long. And even in South Florida, as a lot of people know, if you're unless you're business development in your title, you may not go from Miami up to Palm Beach for an event. So we have to not only move our 70, 80 events, have them, but we have to move them around, right, to different counties and whatnot. So.
We do, and we have staff specially for everything north of Palm Beach. So if you're in Martin County or in Indian River, you're in Brevard, we have a special team just for you, and those numbers are even greater. So it's that number's higher. It's really not 6,500 people. It's more than that. So that's an impressive number. But you know what? It's an organizational feat to pull that off. Because I am just blown away by how much it goes to put an event together. A simple networking event at a bar takes a lot of work.
It does. To your point earlier too, we try our best to, when you're going to have on average 150 people. Parking is an issue. Having the adequate space to have these events. It's funny. One of the awesome things about, and I don't know if this speaks well about the event attendance or the nature of our business, but I know Amy. I joke with Amy and Megan. About we go to these venues and we tell them, you're going to make some good business.
Yeah.
Because this industry can drink, right? So you make sure you staff up your bar. And they are like, heard that a million times until they experience it once.
Yep.
And then they're dying to have us back. But the other beautiful thing about Amy and Megan and what they do is they keep us moving around. Yep. For me, an old guy like me, I experience some of the coolest places and venues because of the places they take us. So.
I had a funny conversation with Amy, who is our events director, and we were discussing our EIC awards, Excellence in Construction Awards, and I started naming some potential locations. Because one of the things I think our team is so good at is keeping everything fresh and new, and we don't do the same thing at the same place year after year and after year. So, and she looked at me and she's like, "Is that place?" And I won't mention what the place was, but it's a very nice place. It's a place I like going a lot. And she said to me, "Do they have a room for 800 people?"
Right.
And it just occurred to me how big EIC really is, and I was like, yeah, you're right. That
800 plus, because I'm sure they're thinking about how to grow it. Because I think it's we had a record 853 or some number she put in front of us at our EIC. Or is that our showcase? Anyway, showcase. EIC.
Showcase.
So anyway.
So
parking,
very
is obviously always a concern for them and whatnot. So anyway, we try to have those
parking and room blocks and having again flabbergasting to me how much goes into these things. And I was just at a clay shoot that we did in Palm City, which is West Stewart, and it's a rural area, right? And I'm sitting there. Everybody has just left in their golf carts to hit the circuit. And here comes this massive truck from 2J's, and there's everything you can imagine, right? Every kind of sandwich and cookies and drinks and all of that. So
did we mention you usually eat well? And
you do.
Well
if you come to an ABC event, you'll eat well.
So.
And I remember being like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, it's a great little event. And I'm like, oh, you got 2J's. And Amy looks at me, and she's like, yeah, but I have more food coming. I'm like, what else is coming? And she got Mission Barbecue.
Right.
And this massive, and Mission Barbecue had to rent a special van to bring all the stuff. Different kinds of barbecue.
We promise to have sweet tea next year.
Next year we'll have sweet tea. I know.
We're always listening for feedback. So.
Absolutely. So if there's anything.
So Sonny, have you ever told that story that there's a great story you told of an interaction you had at your first EIC.
At my very first EIC event. I have not shared that on the podcast.
I asked, because it's kind of a twofold Yay ABC event, but it's kind of the nature of events and what can happen at events now.
So I'm going to share the story with our audience. My first EIC event was at the Diplomat in Hollywood, which If you've been up there, you know the room is just massive, and it's around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And you're walking towards your room in the hallway. There's ABC banners, and there's all these things happening. And I go in, and I see our entire team. They're putting some decorative pieces on every single place setting that, would have never even occurred to me would be a necessity, but our team is so good. And I'm kind of standing there, and I see this young man walking behind me, and he's wearing a name tag from the Diplomat. It's got his name. It says hotel engineer on it. And he says to me, excuse me, sir, are you with ABC? And I said, I am. And he goes, are you in charge? And I was like, uh-oh, there's a problem. I don't want to deal with it. I was like, nope. And I pointed to Amy, who was walking in the distance.
Talk to the events person.
Yeah, I was like, talk to the events person. I am not in charge. And he said, okay. And he started walking towards Amy. And I was like, well, what is it? Can I help you? As he's walking away from me. So he stops. He's like, well, is this ABC from Coconut Creek? And I said, yeah. And this is our annual Excellence in Construction
Coconut Creek's where our corporate headquarters are at.
Our corporate headquarters and our biggest campus for our institute. He proceeds to tell me that he became an electrician at ABC. He attended the ABC Institute for 4 years, became a journeyman, and was so proud of the fact. He reached into his wallet, and I'll never forget this, and I thought he was about to grab his business card, right? Mm-hmm. And he hands me this little piece of paper, and it was a student ID. And he had been graduated for, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years. He had already been graduated, but
he was like did you say this already? He was like the chief, right, engineer,
the chief engineer for the
whole
hotel.
Diplomat.
Yep, so. Which is over 1,000 rooms. I mean, it's a massive property. And he used this. These were his words. He's like, ABC changed my life.
Anyway, and events. You never know what's going to happen, right? Which I thought was a really cool story. The other thing I want to say is we're very grateful to our event sponsors.
Yes.
Amy and Megan and ABC, we're very conscientious about making sure that if you sponsor an event of ours, that you receive the value that you expect, out of it. And Amy and Megan are terrific at that. Our whole point kind of talking about these numbers is hopefully if you haven't, you would consider sponsoring because there is tremendous value there. Mm-hmm. The events we do, the different nature of them, the number of people you're going to connect to, you're going to get tremendous value out of this sponsorship than you might out of almost any kind of way you can spend your dollars because it's going to be, as we've said before, well-attended events, mm-hmm. well-organized. 75% of our membership, or 73, is contractor-based. So you're going to meet the people and you're going to be in front of the people you want to be in front of. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of our sponsors.
Absolutely.
Last year. I know it grew in large part due to thanks to Amy and Megan, and we'd like you to be part of that sponsorship this year if possible.
444 companies participated in our events last year.
444 unique
companies.
Spectacular.
That's amazing.
And we even measure, we're driven by data around here as often as we can.
Yes, we are.
So I think we measure engagement and participation. So I think 3/4 of our membership did something during the year, which is very important. Now, we would love it to be 100%. Mm-hmm. So
I do want to share a cool fact. I heard this last year. So we do an ABC Alamorada fishing tournament in, Alamorada. This reminded me of that line from Austin Powers. Allow myself to introduce myself. It has grown into the largest backcountry fishing tournament in Alamorada.
Crazy.
Right?
There's a story behind that, by the way, and it's even connected. We've told it in other podcasts about ABC Cares and all the different community events we did, the fishing tournament, like a lot of folks do offshore, and bowling and golf and clay shoots and whatnot. And this is an important conversation to have as well about events. Sometimes you just got to keep them fresh. There's some things that you got to stop doing for a while. And so we stopped doing our fishing tournament. And when and things always go better when you have a member or two that are champions of something. They came back and said after a few years they wanted to reinvigorate the fishing tournament. And my only request to them was do something different. We don't want to be one of many more that are still being done that are offshore. Do something different. So they came back with this offshore backcountry tournament, and now we're the largest.
The largest in Islamorada. That's
largest
incredible.
in the Keys, not just in Islamorada.
And the
I think
Keys, yeah.
largest in the Keys. So an event.
That's very cool.
We want you to be part of our great events in 2025. By the way, one of the most trafficked part of our website is the calendar. So if you go to abceastflorida.com and click events right at the top, you'll get the calendar. So you can take a look. And then we also send out weekly events emails that have all our upcoming events. So there's no reason for you not to be aware of what's happening and to come on out.
And Amy and Megan, we know you're busy at an event right now, so thank you for all the work you do.
Yeah, you're the best. We
we're
appreciate
proud to have you on our team.
The whole industry is very happy at the value that you help deliver for them and the membership. So
absolutely.
All right. So
thank you for your time, everybody.
Yep, we appreciate you listening and honoring us with your time. We look forward to sharing another episode with you very soon.
For comments, send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Thank you for joining us.
All right, until next time. Ciao.